Hi there, welcome to Bitcoin Wyckoff technical analysis session. Bitcoin has a pretty good run this week, and while we're near the end of the week, when the candle draws to a close, let's see how high the percentage would Bitcoin reach another all-time high, because this week's candle is still receiving rejection from the previous high. So let's dive into the charts and look at both weekly and daily time frame and see what's happening. Here, this is the candle of this week, and previously we put in these tags asking the question, would this be an LPSY, meaning after the in the yellow scenario it's the upthrust, the blue scenario upthrust after distribution, whether this is a last point of supply, whether it's either of those situations. As of this moment, we still have roughly close to 2 days before this candle closes. It looks quite positive for the bulls, but then it's not without worry. Reason being, if we look at the volume here, the volume currently, even with this relatively larger candlestick compared to the past 10 weeks, the volume itself is just average basically. So there's basically less change of hands compared to the prior period where we've got higher volume observed. Look at these candlesticks, they are pretty much the same length as what we are having right now, but look at the volume, it was way higher than what we're seeing as of this moment. So that's one thing to pay attention to. The other is, while it has broken outside of this bull flag, this downward trend over here, if we turn this sideways and bring this down, basically the price is still trading within this horizontal range. So when we see the price currently being rejected below the last all-time high back in mid-August, there is a chance for Bitcoin to trade sideways until a breakout point happens. That's one possibility. However, we also tag this 20% mark for the yellow scenario, where the price would go hit the ceiling of this pink box and then creating a new all-time high, the upthrust of the distribution. As of now, I would say I'll slightly adjust upwards the chance of this happening. While the other side, heading towards a sign of weakness, remain the higher side, but then based on the current movement, there is a chance that people would FOMO in and trigger a new all-time high. Though the chance may be less than the downside, we still have to wait for that to happen. Just to add one point, here we haven't drawn a center line for this upward channel, this pink box over here, and I believe it's time to do that now given what's going on. So this line doesn't necessarily need to cut the box exactly in half. The key of this line is to find a level, although I know it's not a horizontal trading zone, it still works for these like slanted trading zones, either upward or downward. The key is to find the level where we've got most trading activities that bounces off from this line. So we see a lot of these over here, right? And then what we're trying to see is whether the current run up, like in the remaining roughly 45 hours, would this price comes back down to where the basically below the center line. If that happens, if it comes below the center line, that means the likelihood of it continue to trade below the line along this box is going to continue until a point where people lose confidence, and then eventually the price falls outside of this pink upward channel. But of course there are dual support it has to break. One is this key level, purple key level of 104k. The other is this pink edge at the bottom of this channel. So these two will form a dual support that gives a chance for Bitcoin price to rebound if it ever comes down to hit any of these levels. So that's the big picture. We look at the percentages, we look at the possibility of its heading towards the upwards of the distribution, and also if it has to come down to the downs like the south, then it has multiple support before it can happen. So it's not going to be like a quick drop unless there's some crazy news, which I don't expect to happen, like Bitcoin suddenly got hacked or like got congestion, etc., which is not likely, right? So the time point itself, this box, if Bitcoin really is going to last like 8 months trading in this area, that's the point where the breakout would happen. Though I don't think Bitcoin will like trade 9 months along this level. So last time it traded for pretty long while. Well, this one lasted for roughly 3 months, but this was really long. This lasted for 238 days. So that's almost 8 months. So I won't say absolutely it can't happen, but it's absolutely longer than what we had back in March 2024 all the way to October 2024. So that's an unlikely case because that's almost a year, but there's still a chance for that to happen because we have seen something like that just last year. So enough for the big picture. Let's go to the daily. Here, I know it's pretty busy chart. As we talked about, like once we plug in the Wyckoff tax in the daily, that's going to be really crazy. So here we had covered all these stages, and now what we have, you see the rejection over here, right? If I enlarge this further, this rejection wick. So once it got to the level not as the same height as the upthrust of the distribution, just passing the upthrust, and it already got quite a bit of selling going on over here. So this candle or this volume bar for yesterday combines both buying from the bottom and also selling from the top here. So it's not entirely good news for the bulls. Basically the bulls and bears were competing over here, and obviously if there were people that got in during the upthrust or upthrust of the distribution, that was the chance for them to sell and basically recoup their capital without much of a loss. And now we're starting seeing red for today's candle. It really is a test to see whether this is going to hold, because like I said, two relatively higher volume bars to the upside, but then the third one basically signals quite a bit of selling at this level, and that's an indication of a strong resistance that may basically suffocate the climb this time. One thing to really help gauge this is this pink line that we've drawn in the past session. So not past session, we've drawn just now. That's the center line of the upward channel box. The box we've drawn for a couple of sessions, but the center line we've just added. Why I'm bringing up this line is because if the price stays above this line, even if it drops, and continue to bounce, then when we get to mid-November, that's November 17th, that's where the line crosses this horizontal box, there is a chance for a breakout to happen. So in roughly 6-7 weeks time, if the price continues to trade along this pink line above it better, then eventually it will break either back to the lower half of the pink box. Let me shrink this, you'll see where the pink box is, and then, or if this is following the ascending triangle of candlestick pattern analysis, then it's going to shoot to the upside. As of now, it's too early to tell because we've got 6 weeks before that happens. Again, we have to observe the volume as well as whether the price actions will continue to trade above this pink dashed line. For the other support levels, these intermediate levels, obviously if it falls below the pink, those are the levels that are going to be challenged first before the bottom edge of this blue box, and then eventually the bottom edge of the pink and also the purple key level. Just to quickly check the Bollinger Band corner squeeze, with this big price move, there's not much of that going on, and it will probably take another week or two of horizontal trading before the squeeze happens. So we are seeing these kind of bouncing along, well, you can say it's bouncing along the channels, but also as well like bouncing off these boxes that I've drawn. So pretty consistent. If I turn it to a line chart, you'll see easier that it's basically trying to bounce off between the two edges. Okay, so if it really goes up high, just to look at that before we close, back to the weekly, because that's where the indication would be. So if it really shoots up and creates an all-time high, where would it eventually stops, right? So this point previously we have put in there, it's about 150k. Would it really hit that point? You see, this is a slope. It's not a flat like horizontal line. So depending on the time that builds up to that point, if Bitcoin really edges towards it, the sooner it gets to the ceiling, the lower the peak would be. So if it hits by the second week of November, it would be at around 145k. But if it hits somewhere at the beginning of next year, it will be around 150k. So let's see what news are coming for Bitcoin. Say if Bitcoin halving is getting near and it's staying strong enough at this level, that may be the time where the news are being pushed out saying Bitcoin halving is coming, and then eventually the price will get pushed further. So it really is the game where the big guys are going to push the news out and then maybe do their final run up before they take all the profit and let the price go wherever it wants to be freely. So that's both good side and like upside and downside, but it all depends on the timing. So pretty wild period ahead while we're seeing some big moves, but the volume isn't really supporting, so be careful, especially if you are trying to catch this run upwards. Keep pushing your stop loss. Don't let your orders stay open without protection. So thanks for joining.